Let's see the next topic in general science, that is measuring devices and scales. Student, this topic is asked in all the competitive examination, whether it is SSC, RRB or other similar exam. Okay, and in today's session we are going to cover 20 questions related to this particular topic, and all those questions which we are covering in this particular session are asked in these exams. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's begin the session. So the first question is on your screen and your time starts now. The question says the meter that is used to measure the distance moved by the vehicle. A very simple one, the distance moved by the vehicle. Okay, let's see one by one option. The first one is ammeter. Student, you should remember the ammeter measures what? Current. Okay. Next one is speedometer. As the word itself says, it is going to measure the speed of the vehicle. Okay, so speed. Next is chronometer. So chrono, you should relate with the chronology. Chronology means which is something related to time. So it is going to measure the time interval accurately. Okay, time interval. The next one is the odometer. Yes, it is going to measure the distance moved by the vehicle. Okay, so option D, those who have given, they are right. So option D is the right answer. And in the theory part, we have seen there are many devices which are used to measure the length or distance, and these are the few important ones that we have summarized. In this, fathometer, altimeter and odometer are the important one. Okay, and screw gauge, as you know, it is used to measure the very small thickness, and that we have studied in 11th and 12th. Okay, and whereas fathometer, it is used to find the depth of the sea. And if you go with the altimeter, it is going to measure the altitude. Okay, alti means altitude. Okay, altitude is nothing but your height from the ground. Okay, so altimeter is going to measure the height, whereas fathometer is going to use the depth of the sea. And just now we have seen that odometer is used to measure the distance traveled by the vehicle. Okay, and all such pointers we have seen in our theory classes. Okay, so the next question is, fathometer is used to measure what? Just now we have seen in the measurement of length and device is the depth of sea. Okay, so fathometer is used to find the depth of the sea. What about the other option? So if you take earthquake, so which device is used to measure the earthquake? It is seismograph. Okay, seismograph. Or for making, like, if you want to know the intensity of the earthquake, for that it is Richter scale. Okay, don't confuse. Okay, Richter scale, if you want to find the intensity of the earthquake. Whereas if you talk about rain, in order to measure the rain, how much it has fallen, it is rain gauge. Okay, rain gauge. Gauge is something like which is used to measure. Depth of the sea is fathometer, whereas sound intensity is decibel meter. Okay, decibel is a unit and meter is something which is going to measure it. Okay, so let's see the next question. Again, it is basically related to the distance. Okay, and it is used in basically in the navigation. So in sonar we use which type of wave? Okay, it is sound. SO means sound, navigation and ranging. Oh, full form you should know: sound, navigation and ranging. Okay, and it is normally used in submarine or ship. Okay, it is basically underwater devices which uses some wave to find the distance. Okay, this is underwater object, so it makes some use of some waves. Okay, so that's what question is asking, which type of wave is used in sonar? Okay, sound, navigation and ranging. Okay, so you have to remember that it is ultrasonic wave. Okay, ultrasonic waves are used to find the depth of or the distance of the submerged object in the sea. And for this particular question, option C is the right answer. Alternative to sonar, it is radar. Okay, so first one is a sonar, second one is a radar, and these two are very important for all the competitive examination. And the first is, you should know the full form. It is sound, navigation and ranging, and it is used to measure the distance and depth in water. And the very important one is it uses ultrasonic sound wave. Okay, this is very important. And the second one is radio detection and ranging. Okay, radar, radio detection and ranging, radio detection and ranging. It is again used to measure the distance. Along with the distance, it can be used to find the direction and the speed. Mostly it is used by the aircraft or ships or the missile. And the very important one again is it is going to use radio wave and sometime microwave also. Okay, so radio wave is used in radar, whereas in sonar ultrasonic sound waves are used. Let's see the next question. Again, it is related to radar. So radar is used to find detective object using light wave. No, so this is incorrect. Reflecting sound wave to detect the objects. It does not use sound wave. It is basically sonar which uses sound wave to detect the object. So it is sonar basically, not radar. Okay. And the next one is determining the presence and location of object with the radio wave. Yes, it is correct. It is radio detection and ranging. So option C is the right answer. Let's see the next question. Which one of the following can be used to measure temperature above 1500 degrees centigrade, which is a very high temperature? Okay. So you should remember that clinical thermometer will not be used. Clinical thermometer is used in the medicine industry, where you want to know the temperature of human body. Okay, so this is not going to work with such high temperature. Okay, so there are other type of thermometer, but for such a huge degree of temperature, you need something called pyrometer. Okay, so pyrometer is going to measure the temperature, basically the high temperature above 1500 degree. Okay, so option D is the right answer. And in the theory portion, we have discussed that there are various other devices which are used for measurement of temperature. So we have seen there are basically 4 type of devices. Like first is thermometer, which is going to measure the general temperature. Okay, clinical, which is going to measure the human body temperature, whereas pyrometer, this is very important for any exam, which is going to measure very high temperature inside furnace or non-contact temperature. Okay, so pyrometer is going to measure very high temperature. And as you know, in the COVID time, we have seen infrared thermometer, which is going to measure the temperature without touching using infrared rays. Okay, so pyrometer is very important temperature measuring device. Okay, let's see the next question. It is very important because it is related to electricity, and electricity is one of the important topic in physics. Which one of the following is not correctly matched? Okay, voltmeter is going to measure the potential difference. Yes, it is going to measure potential difference or the voltage. Ammeter is going to measure electric current. It is also true, ammeter is measuring the electric current. Potentiometer, it is going to measure electromagnetic force. Yes, it is again true. Whereas galvanometer, if you see it, he is saying electric resistance. Okay, so you have to remember that it is false. Galvanometer measure the current which are very small values. Okay, small current is measured by galvanometer, not the electric resistance. Okay, so those who have given option D, they are right. And in the theory portion, we have seen all the electricity related device, and out of these four are very important one, and most of us knows that resistance is measured by ohm meter, voltage voltmeter, current ammeter. This galvanometer is something different, so this you need to remember that it is going to measure the small currents. Whereas if there is one more device that is called rheostat, which is used to adjust the resistance. Okay, so this can also come in your exam. Okay, rheostat is generally used to measure the or adjust the resistance basically. Okay, let's see the next question. Ammeter is what? Okay, so this time he is asking the characteristic of the device itself. Ammeter is connected in series to the circuit. Yes, in the electricity chapter we have studied that it must be connected in the series, so this is correct. Must have the following legitimate resistance. Yes, it should have a resistance value. Okay, so it is also correct. And the very important one, that it should draw less power so that it gives the value accurately, so it is also correct. So in this case, all of the above is the right answer. Let's see the next question. The density of the milk is measured by what? Okay, so let's see one by one. Lactometer, the first option itself, it is correct. Lactometer is basically the device which is going to measure the density of milk. So those who have given option A, well and good, they are right. And similar to these measurement, there are other important devices. The first one is hydrometer. Okay, so you should not mix it with hygrometer, which basically measure the humidity. This is the hydrometer. Just be careful while reading. It is hydrometer. It is going to measure the density of the liquid. Okay, hydrometer means the density of the liquid, whereas if you want to check the purity or the density of the milk, it is lactometer. So these two are very important. Rotameter and hydroscope, this you should know that rotameter is used to volumetric flow rate of liquid, whereas hydroscope is used to find the change in density of the liquid. Okay, so in these four, these two are very important. And don't confuse with the hydrometer and hygrometer. Hygrometer is used to measure the density, humidity, whereas hydrometer is used to measure the density of liquid. Okay. Which instrument is used to measure the atmospheric pressure? Okay, atmospheric pressure, a very simple one. Let's see one by one. Hydrometer, as I told you in the previous slide, it is used to measure the density of the liquid. Okay, density of any liquid. Okay, barometer is used to measure the atmospheric pressure, so this is the right answer. Okay, so these two, let's see. Manometer, it is used to measure the pressure of gas. Okay, so it is used to measure the pressure of the gas, whereas hygrometer, it is used to measure the atmospheric humidity. Okay, so atmospheric pressure, it is used by barometer. Okay, so B is the right answer. Let's see the other measurement device in the pressure. Barometer, as I told you, it is atmospheric pressure, and sometime he asked the liquid used, it is mercury, so mercury is used in the barometer. The next important one is the manometer, which is going to measure the gas pressure. And sphygmanometer, it is again manometer, but it is sphygmomanometer, it is going to measure the blood pressure of the human body. Okay, so this is very important. And if you talk about the tonometer, which is going to measure the pressure inside the person. Okay, so out of these four, these three are very important. Okay, sphygmomanometer, just it is related to pressure, but if it is sphygo, it is going to measure blood, where it's only manometer, it is gas pressure, whereas barometer is used to measure the atmospheric pressure. Okay, what is measured by manometer? Just now we have seen it is the pressure of the gas. So pressure of gas is the right answer. So option B is the right answer. Let's see the next question. Ringelmann scale is used to measure the density of the following. Okay, so Ringelmann scale. So there are many scales which are used to measure physical quantity, and this scale, remember, it is used to find the density of the smoke. Okay, so Ringelmann is used to find the density of the smoke. And there are other few important devices which are used in the earth and measurement, earth and environment. The first one is seismograph. It is very important. It is used to measure the earthquake. And if you want to find the intensity of the earthquake, it is a Richter scale. It is again a very important device which is commonly asked in the exam. And rain gauge, rainfall, tensiometer, soil moisture tension, Ringelmann scale, it is the density of the smoke. Okay. Let's see, the question is about the Richter scale. What is false about Richter scale? Okay, so you know the Richter scale is used to measure the intensity of the earthquake. Okay, so let's see one by one. It was developed by Charles Richter and Gutenberg in 1935. Yes, it is true. It is developed by Charles Richter, and it is a logarithmic scale. Yes, it is a logarithmic scale. It means that if we jump from one number to next number, it increases in the power of 10. Okay, so it is a logarithmic scale. It can be used, it can be measured using seismometer. Yes, seismometer gives the value, and Richter scale convert into logarithmic scale to find the intensity of the earthquake. A magnitude of 8 to 9 on the Richter scale means light earthquake. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is false. Why? Because 8 to 9 magnitude, it is a very high intense earthquake. Okay. So those who have given option D, they are right. And all such pointer we have seen in our theory classes, that seismograph is the device which basically records the seismic wave, which is vibration in the earth. Okay, and Richter scale is used to find the magnitude or the intensity of the earthquake, and the biggest earthquake was happened on May 1960, which is of order of 9.5. Okay, the apparatus which is used to measure the intensity of the light. Okay, so this time the question says which device is used to measure the intensity of the light. Okay, so let's see one by one. Anemometer, so you know that it is going to measure the wind speed and the direction. Okay, so this is the wind speed anemometer. Colorimeter, basically it is like you want to find the strength of concentration using colors. Okay, basically the strength. Okay, the next one is lux meter. So you know one of the unit of the light is lux, so you can relate with that. Lux meter is going to measure the intensity of light, so this is right. And altimeter, as I told you, that it is going to measure the altitude or the height. Okay, so option C is the right answer. And in the theory portion, we have seen that there are various devices which measure the light. The first one is photometer. as you know, it is going to measure the luminous intensity, that is brightness. Okay, what do you mean by luminous intensity? It is light emitted by the source. Okay, so how much bright the light is, it is going to measure by photometer. Whereas if you talk about lux meter, it is also going to find the amount of light, but instead of finding from the source, it is going to find the illuminance, that is amount of light falling on the surface. Okay, so how much light is falling on the surface, basically visible light, lux meter is used. Okay, and a very important one is actinometer. Actinometer, again, it is going to find the intensity, but this time it is intensity of the solar radiation. Okay, so if you want to know the intensity of the solar radiation, actinometer will be the correct device. Okay, and as you know, spectrometer is for the study of dispersion of light. Spectroheliograph is used to photographing the sun. Again, this is a very good question. Spectroheliograph, which is used to measure photographing the sun. Suppose I want to photograph a sun, so for that spectroheliograph will be the best device. And solar radiation, how much sun is producing the radiation, it is pyrometer. Okay, pyroheliometer. Okay, helio, whenever the word comes, it is something related to solar or the sun. Okay, let's see the next question. Electroencephalogram, that is EEG, is used to monitor which of the following? Okay, so as you know, it is one of the medical devices and it measures the activity of the brain. Okay, so option D, those who have given, they are right. And there are other medical devices which are generally asked in the exam. The first one is sphygmomanometer, which we have already covered in the pressure, that it is going to measure the blood pressure, whereas EEG is going to measure the brain activity, whereas ECG is going to measure the heart electrical activity. Okay, and spirometer is used to find the lungs capacity, and oximeter is used for oxygen saturation, that is SpO2 value. Okay, so out of these three are very important. Let's see the next question. Which instrument is used to measure the humidity? I told you in one of the question earlier that it is hygrometer. Okay, hygrometer is used to measure the humidity, whereas if you talk about hydrometer, it is going to measure the density of liquid, whereas pyrometer, as you know, it is going to measure the temperature, very high temperature, and lactometer is basically the purity or the density of milk. So for this question, option B is the right answer. Okay, so hygrometer is going to measure the humidity, whereas psychrometer, that is going to measure relative humidity. Okay, so if you ask about relative humidity, it is psychrometer. Okay, psychrometer is going to measure relative humidity. Wind velocity is measured by what? Okay, so as I told you earlier that it is anemometer. Anemometer is going to measure the wind velocity or wind direction. The other one, if you want to have, just look, barometer, atmospheric pressure, hygrometer, atmospheric humidity, maximum minimum thermometer is going to measure the temperature. Okay, so option D is the right answer. Okay, so if you want to know the speed or velocity of any device, okay, speedometer, with speedometer we get the speed of the vehicle. Tachometer, it also measures the speed, but the rotational speed. Sometime he asks the terminology RPM, that is rotational per minute. Okay, so RPM gives the value in rotation per minute, whereas anemometer is used to find the wind speed and the wind direction. Let's see the next question. Which of the following does not match. Compass used for navigation and indicate north-south direction. Yes, compass is used to find the direction with reference to north. Cyclotron measures small magnitude cyclone. No, this is basically an accelerometer which is going to measure positive charge particle. Okay, so this does not match. Okay, let's see the next question. A very different one, a very uncommon one in fact. What does stalgometer used to measure? Dynamic viscosity, surface tension, refractive index, lighted activity. The answer for this question, stalgometer, it is surface tension. These are the other one, so I'm marking it as important. So surface tension is measured by stalgometer. And this slide is very important. You can take a screenshot because these are the device which are not commonly asked in all the exam. Okay, so out of this, the first one, Geiger-Müller counter, GM counter, it is going to measure the detect of radioactive radiation. This is very important, GM counter, and this question we have seen in many exam. And the other include polygraph, which is also known as lie detector test. Okay, so these two are very important. Okay, let's see the next question. Which instrument is used for discovering the things in water? Okay, so we have seen there are two devices, basically sonar and radar. Okay, and it is sound navigation and ranging. Sonar is used to discover the thing inside water, and it uses ultrasonic wave. Yes, let's see the next question. It is match the following. So these are the device and these are what it measures. So let's match the following. So the first one is stethoscope. Let's see. To measure the intensity of light, as we have already seen, it is lux meter, so I am making it A. To check purity of gold, it is caratometer. Okay, carat as a word itself suggests that it is something related to gold. Sphygmomanometer, it is going to measure the blood pressure, whereas stethoscope, it is going to hear the heart sound. Okay, so A is 3. So A is 3, so option C is the right answer.